Part 109. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1081. Tianxian. Tianxian. Don't be angry. I was wrong. I caught up with Su Tianxian and apologized repeatedly. Su Tianxian looked at me angrily, stretched out her slender hands, and gently pinched my cheeks. Next time you speak so openly, I will teach you a lesson. I chuckled and said, no, no. Su Tianxian was not really angry, she was just pretending to be shy as a woman. In the eyes of outsiders, Su Tianxian is a cold and elegant existence. But in front of me, she seemed to be a young girl in love. She will be shy, act coquettishly, and play tricks with me. I think this is what she really looks like. I hesitated and stretched out my hand to gently hold Su Tianxian's jade hand. Su Tianxian struggled slightly and then acquiesced to my move. If there were outsiders around, she would never allow me to hold her hand. As for Cai Dai, I asked her and Lu Hangxuan to wait outside. After all the monks were resting in the temple, and if something happened, she could handle it. The two of us walked towards the top floor, and soon we reached the middle of the tower. From this height, I can clearly see the appearance of those banshees. Their bodies were pierced by chains and their faces were covered with masks, giving them an extremely ominous feeling. Su Tianxian said with some confusion, it shouldn't be. With the 8-character mantra of Buddhism, the resentment and evil spirit of these banshees shouldn't be so heavy. This sentence points out the problem very crucially. In this important place of Buddhism, the banshee is imprisoned. Even if you have resentment in your heart, under the universal salvation of Buddhism, these resentments will gradually dissipate. But now it is so strong. At this moment, a banshee suddenly started shaking. Then, a weak voice sounded in my ear. No. Don't go up, don't go up. I frowned, she was reminding me and Su Tianxian. But how could I not go up? After all, the dragon gate cannot be opened without the 8-character mantra. Ever since I entered Sakya Monastery, I have been wondering whether Zhao Mian would also come here. Because his purpose is to help Zhang Yucheng regain his strength. From what I know about Zhao Mian, he always likes to appear at the end. To put it simply, the mantis stalks the cicada while the oriole stalks behind. I had to be on guard. Su Tianxian and I quickened our pace and soon reached the top floor. There is another scene on the top floor. There is a large space here and countless Buddha statues are placed in front of it. Some Buddha statues are 4 or 5 meters high, while others are only 70 or 80 centimeters high. These Buddha statues are all made of clay, and the images are generally Bodhisattva and Maitreya Buddha. The surrounding walls are also covered with scriptures. I looked around and finally stopped at a wall. There is a large map on this wall. The picture shows a female demon lying on her back, with her feet slightly bent and her left leg covering her private parts so as not to obscure the view. It seems that the painter's composition is clever and the artistic conception is elegant. The witch raised her right arm with her wrist hanging down, raised her left arm with her wrist bent above her head. There are mountains and water on the body, the veins are clear, and many large and small temples are built all over the body. I frowned, and so did Su Tianxian. This turned out to be a Tibetan demon suppression map. This demon suppression map is the map drawn by Songtsen Gampo and Princess Wenqing as mentioned before. On this map is the most ferocious witch in Tibet. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1082. I looked at Su Tianxian and asked, how come this demon-suppressing map appears here? Su Tianxian shook her head and said she didn't know either. I looked at the demon suppression picture, and unknowingly I was attracted by the graceful woman's body on the demon suppression picture. Kakik. You finally came. Suddenly. An extremely charming voice suddenly rang in my ears. Who? I looked around warily and yelled loudly. But after looking around, I found that there was no one here except Su Tianqian and me. Su Tianqian asked with concern, "Xiao Su, what's wrong with you?" I just wanted to tell Su Tianqian about the sound I just heard. But at this moment, I suddenly caught a glimpse of the demon-suppressing picture out of the corner of my eye. With just one glance, my whole eyes became filled with blood. Everywhere he looked was covered in blood, as if he was in a sea of blood. Kikik. The charming laughter sounded again. Then, I saw a naked woman appearing in front of me. She has a slim figure, a hot figure, and every inch of her skin exudes a charming temptation that is hard to refuse. Her appearance is also amazing. Compared with Su Tianqian, it is even worse. Compared with the indifferent expression between Su Tianxuan's brows, the woman in front of me is a bit more charming, as if every frown and smile can touch my heart. The woman stood in the empty corner, tapped her jade feet, stretched out her slender jade hands and gently held my cheek. "I thought you wouldn't come to me." The woman's voice was filled with resentment. I subconsciously wanted to retreat, but found that I couldn't move at all. Am I in an illusion? The woman slowly raised her jade finger and tapped my forehead. "Okay. It's time to fulfill your promise." The next moment, the blood around me rushed toward my eyebrows crazily, and even the woman's body merged into my eyebrows. After a moment, my body sank and I slowly opened my eyes. I was in Su Tianxuan's arms at this time. She looked at me with a worried face, as if she was about to cry. Seeing that I was awake, Su Tianqian asked quickly, "Xiao Su, what's wrong with you?" There were no changes in my body, nothing unusual. I sat up, looked at Su Tianqian, and told her what I just told her. After hearing this, Su Tianqian was slightly startled, then lowered his head in thought. "Just now you were staring at the demon-suppressing picture as if you were possessed, and then you passed out. No matter what method I use, you can't wake up." I finally knew why Su Tianxuan's eyes turned red just now. She is extremely powerful, but she couldn't even successfully wake me up just now. This made her a little anxious. Su Tianqian stretched out his index finger, tapped the center of my eyebrows, and examined it, frowning. "I didn't find any residual soul in your body." I asked, "Remaining soul?" Su Tianqian nodded and said, "What happened to you just now is probably because you were fascinated by the remnant soul in the soul-suppressing picture. Coupled with your description, I suspect that the remnant soul entered your body. But, I didn't find it." This gave me a vague feeling of uneasiness. That remnant soul must have entered my body. What surprised me was that Su Tianqian was unable to detect the existence of the remnant soul. Su Tianqian lowered his head and pondered, and said, "The remnant soul should be the witch. Now I have no clue. After this matter is resolved, I will take you to Yaokai to try and see if I can find a solution." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1083. I nodded. The remnant soul of the witch must have entered my body. However, even Su Tianxuan's strength failed to discover it. This shows how powerful the witch is. Moreover, from what the witch said to me, I can also tell that there seems to be some connection between me and him. All of this can only be known by going to Yaokai. I asked Su Tianqian, "Tianqian, where is the 8-character mantra?" Su Tianqian looked around, frowning. "It stands to reason that the 8-character mantra is here, but when we get here, why don't we find anything?" I also looked around carefully, trying to find some clues. At this moment, out of the corner of my eye, I suddenly noticed the beams of the tower. I hesitated, pointed to the beam, and said, "Tianqian, look over there." Su Tianqian looked in the direction I pointed. Supporting the top of the tower is a thick wooden stake. There is a faint golden light shining on the wooden pile. That seems to be 4 words. Su Tianxian muttered softly. 4 words. 8-character mantra. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but get excited. The roof beams are empty and people can squat on them. I said to Su Tianxian, I'll go up and have a look. Su Tianxian nodded. I used Nine Eyes' heavenly domain and disappeared instantly. When he appeared again, he was already squatting on the beam. There are indeed 4 gold inscriptions on the beams. They are Om, Ma, Ji, and Ma. Why 4 words? Instead of 8? I told Su Tianxian the above situation. After Su Tianxian listened, he lowered his head and pondered for a moment, then replied, it seems that there are only the first 4 of the 8-character mantra here. Xiao Su, let me go up and I will take down the 8-character mantra. I nodded and used the power of Nine Eyes' heavenly domain to move Su Tianxian up. If there were no Nine Eyes heaven realm, I don't know how much effort would be wasted if I wanted to climb such a high beam. Su Tianxian looked at the 8-character mantra on the beam and frowned instantly. This. I quickly asked, Tianxian, what's wrong? Su Tianxian pointed to the 8-character mantra and said, if these 4 characters are transferred, the entire tower will collapse, and those banshees will go out and do evil. Will the tower collapse? This is indeed a bit troublesome. Once the tower collapses and the banshee appears, all life will be devastated. However, we have to take down this 8-character mantra. Su Tianxian said to me, Xiao Su, please hand over the evil suppressing seal to me. I nodded, took out the evil suppressing seal and handed it to Su Tianxian. The beams are very wide and large, but the height is limited, so you can only squat or sit. Su Tianxian took the evil seal and placed it on the beam. I knew instantly what she was going to do. She wanted to transfer the 8-character mantra to the evil suppressing tower. Tianxian, if we take down the 8-character mantra, what will happen to the banshee in the tower? Su Tianxian said to me, don't worry, transfer the 8-character mantra to the evil suppression tower. As long as the evil suppression tower does not leave the tower, those banshees will naturally be unable to cause trouble. In doing so, we will also have more time to think about countermeasures. Su Tianxian was afraid that something would change later, so he was so anxious to transfer the 8-character mantra. Just when Su Tianxian was about to do it, dull footsteps came from below the beam. Somebody is coming. My face hardened, and I looked under the beam, only to see a monk wearing cassocks walking in. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1084. Judging from the monk's dress, he should be the abbot of Sakya Temple. Su Tianxian turned around and wanted to warn me not to speak. But who would have thought that when she turned around, her red lips would directly touch my lips? Su Tianxian's pupils widened and he looked at me in shock, subconsciously trying to push me away. I was startled, took a step towards her to stop her soft waist, and then forcefully pulled her down into my arms. Su Tianxian's pupils trembled, and I frowned, signaling her not to act rashly. She also came to her senses and wanted to distance herself from me. But I held her waist tightly and couldn't help but pry open her teeth. The look of shock in Su Tianxian's eyes became more intense. She stretched out her hand and pinched my waist hard. I felt pain and quickly stopped moving. Su Tianxian glared at me hatefully, her pretty face turned red, and there was only a look of sullenness on her brows. However, she is really cute like this. I stopped pestering her and looked at the host under the beam. I saw that the host came to the demon-suppressing picture, sat cross-legged, took out the wooden fish, knocked it around, and recited scriptures. I felt a strong yin energy from the ghost host. This guy gives me a very dangerous feeling. I don't know how long it took before the host slowly stood up, picked up the wooden fish, bowed deeply to the demon-suppressing picture, and then left here. Apparently, he didn't notice us. After the host left, I asked Su Tianxian, Tianxian, that guy just now. Su Tianxian turned around suddenly and glared at me fiercely, with a shy expression on his brows. Xiao Su. You are getting more and more bold. I said a little innocently, you can't blame me just now. The place here is so small, it is inevitable that you will bump into it when you turn around. Su Tianxian pretended to be very lively to cover up the shame in her heart. Then you can't. I asked with a smile, what can't you do? Su Tianxian stretched out her hand, pinched my ears hard, and said coquettishly, then you can't stick your tongue in either. I was in pain and begged for mercy, but Su Tianxian actually didn't use any force. She is now hiding her inner shame. Tianxian, it hurts. Seeing my painful look, Su Tianxian quickly let go of his hand and said apologetically, I'm sorry, I hurt you. As he spoke, he gently rubbed my ears. I chuckled and said, it's okay. I'm willing to pinch you again. Su Tianxian was stunned, and then she realized that I was just pretending. She rolled her eyes and ignored me. I looked at Su Tianxian's side face, and an inexplicable impulse surged in my heart. I grabbed her hand. Su Tianxian was startled and asked, what do you want to do? Tianxian. I called softly. Su Tianxian hummed. When everything is over, you can marry me. Su Tianxian's delicate body trembled, and her eyes kept averting due to shyness. I really want to be with you until the end of time. Only I can say such cliched love words. But Su Tianxian found it useful. She nodded slightly and said, okay. I felt happy. At this moment, I saw a hint of loneliness flash in Su Tianxian's eyes. What's wrong? Su Tianxian shook his head at me and said, it's nothing, I just thought of something. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanbao. Chapter 1085. Tianxian, don't worry, I will never give up on you in this life. Su Tianxian raised his eyes and looked at me quietly, then stretched out his hand and caressed my cheek. I believe in you, but you also have to promise that no matter what happens, you will survive. I was slightly stunned. If I survive, of course I will survive. But why did Su Tianxian say such incomprehensible things? I still wanted to ask questions, but I saw Su Tianxian turned around and cast a spell. She was mumbling words, and the seals of her slender, white hands were constantly changing. Finally, he shouted loudly and pointed at the evil suppression tower. In an instant, the four words emitted a dazzling golden light, and then slowly spread to the body of the evil suppression tower. Su Tianxian and I came down from the rafters. At this moment, the underworld ghost mark on the palm of his hand felt slightly hot. Immediately, the gate to the underworld opened. Two figures came out of it. When I saw the person clearly, I was slightly startled. It turned out to be Xiangyi and Diting. I can still understand Xiangyi coming to see me, but how did this truth come about? You know, because of the soul of Mount Tai, I have become an enemy of Diting. I looked at Diting warily, and he looked at me too. Xiangyi came up and stopped my shoulder and said, don't be nervous. Master Ting is here to ask for something. Have something to ask for? I looked at Diting, and saw Diting looking around, and then focusing on me. You did come here. I didn't want to talk nonsense with Diting, so I said, Master Diting, what do you want from me? Diting glanced at the evil suppression tower in my hand. I subconsciously protected him behind me. Isn't this guy here to steal the 8-character mantra? Diting turned her right hand, and 4 golden lights flashed by. I took a closer look and saw that they were the last 4 characters of the 8-character mantra. They are, yes, sa, li, da. What does it mean? I looked at Diting doubtfully. Diting spoke slowly and said, Kasidagarba asked me to give this to you, saying it can help you. Give me the 8-character mantra? I didn't reach out to take it, but instead asked, Master, listen, this 8-character mantra was not given to me in vain, right? Please tell me your purpose of coming here. Diting nodded and said, I think you already know everything here. The purpose of my coming here is to ask you to help us remove the evil thoughts from the monks here, and then send them to reincarnation, and finally catch the one-eyed evil monk. The one-eyed evil monk in Diting's mouth should be the ghost host just now. This horoscope mantra is very important to me. However, I did not choose to agree to him so quickly. I waved my hand and said, I don't have that ability. Since Lord listening, you also know what the situation is here. There are so many monks and so many banshees in the tower. I can't solve it with my own strength. There was no change on Diting's face at all. He must have heard what I was thinking. After all, the ability to listen is to hear people's voices. It doesn't matter, this 8-character mantra can purify evil thoughts. As for how to deal with the one-eyed evil monk, just find the white conch shell. I asked, why don't you do it yourself? Ting Ting sighed slightly and said, logically speaking, if such a villain appears in Buddhism, we should take action ourselves. However, due to many restrictions, we cannot take action, so you can only do it. I will tell you the whereabouts of the white conch shell. After that, I will lend you the 8-character mantra and the white conch shell for your use. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1086. I have to say that the conditions offered by Diting are very tempting. 8-character mantra, plus white conch shell. Although I need to obtain the white conch shell myself. However, it would be nice to know its whereabouts. I didn't refuse, and said calmly, okay, I promise you. Diting nodded slightly and continued, you can take the evil suppressing seal to get the white conch shell. I will suppress this demon suppressing tower. After you find the white conch shell, you can start preparing to liberate the ghost monks and women here monster things. I was silent for a moment and asked, why do you have to get the white conch shell first? The power of the 8-character mantra can completely liberate the evil spirits here, but why did Diting ask me to look for the white conch shell first? Diting said calmly, because with your current strength, you cannot exert the full power of the 8-character mantra, only with the help of white conch shell can you transcend the evil spirits here. I suddenly realized it and glanced at Su Tianxian, who understood. I said to Xiang Yi, Master Xiang, come with me. Xiang Yi nodded and followed me. We left the top floor of the demon suppression tower and came to the plank road. I looked at Xiang Yi with a serious expression and said, Master Xiang, help us watch and listen. If there is any abnormal behavior, you must tell me as soon as possible. Xiang Yi was silent for a moment and said, actually, I have no other purpose this time. I just want to get rid of the evil spirits here. However, don't worry, I will help you keep an eye on him. I have to be on guard against existences like Diting. Don't let Diting get an advantage after I got the white conch shell and the 8-character mantra in the end. It would be a bit more gain than loss. I said goodbye to Xiang Yi and headed to the place where the white conch shell was hidden. Listening has already told me where the white conch shell is. In the secret passage under the altar table in the main hall of Sakya Temple. Su Tianxian and I left the demon suppression tower. Diting has another 8-character mantra in his hand, so suppressing this tower is no longer a problem. When I came out, I met Lu Hangxuan and Cai Dai. The two of them breathed a long sigh of relief when they saw that Su Tianxian and I came out safely. However, a look of disappointment flashed across Bam Banshi's face. I told Kadi and Lu Hangxuan what I was going to do next. Lu Hangxuan nodded after hearing this and said, I'll go with you. I shook my head at her, glanced at the demon suppression tower, and said, "You stay here for the time being. If anything unusual happens in the demon suppression tower, go and make peace with Mr. Xiang Yuxiang." Lu Hangxuan obeyed my words. You know, her identity is the Empress of the Fox Fairy, and her status among the Fox Fairies is extremely high. But she listened to me so much, which really made me a little scared. Kadi clamored to come with me. I did not refuse. The 8-character mantra protection of the entire Sakya temple has not yet been solved. If I encounter those ghost monks on the way to get the white conch shell, with the colorful butterflies around, some things can be solved. The colorful butterfly turned into a ray of colorful light and penetrated into my eyebrows. I said to Su Tianxian, "Master, let's go." Su Tianxian hummed, and walked side by side towards the main hall of Sakya temple. I paid careful attention to the movements around me, for fear of causing trouble. Fortunately, nothing happened until we arrived at the main temple of Sakya Monastery. Su Tianxian and I hid in the darkness and looked at the brightly lit main temple. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1087. The lights in the temple are not bright, it can only be said to be dim. Moreover, under such dim light, figures flashed through the temple hall from time to time. There was also the faint sound of chanting sutras. "Tianxian, hold on to me." Su Tianxian was stunned for a moment, then stretched out his hand and gently held my arm. I pulled Su Tianxian closer to the main temple hall, and then when I saw that the distance was almost there, I used Nine Eyes Heavenly Domain and disappeared directly. When he appeared again, he was already behind a huge Buddha statue. I cautiously stuck my head out and looked at the situation in the hall outside. The main hall, which had just been filled with flickering figures, was now empty. I held my breath and concentrated, carefully sensing the yin energy around me. After a while, I breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that there were no ghost monks in the hall. Su Tianxian and I walked out from behind the Buddha statue. I looked up at the Buddha statue we had just been hiding in. The Buddha statue is carved lifelike. It is a smiling Maitreya Buddha. It looks very rich, but the strange thing is that this Buddha statue has only one eye. This moment made me think of the one-eyed evil monk in Diting's mouth. It seems that there is a reason why the one-eyed evil monk can dominate here. No matter you are a little monk, a little Taoist priest, or a little demon or ghost, as long as you have a tablet, a shrine, and offerings, your cultivation will definitely increase significantly. Moreover, this one-eyed evil monk is worshipped by thousands of monks in Sakya Monastery, and his spiritual practice must be unimaginable. No wonder Ting Ting asked me to obtain the white conch shell and then think of ways to subdue the ghost monks on the road to salvation. I got under the altar and knocked here and there to see where the secret passage was. After some investigation, I found the switch of the secret passage. I felt happy, it seemed that Ting had not lied to me. I stretched out my hand and gently pressed the stone brick that made a hollow sound when knocked. Just listen to the squeaking sound of the machine running in the air. A dark entrance appeared directly under the altar. I poked my head out from under the altar and waved to Su Tianxian. Just when Su Tianxian was about to enter the secret passage with me, a woman's sharp scream suddenly came to my ears. My expression froze. This voice was, "Liang Ping. She's nearby." Su Tianxuan's face turned a little ugly. I asked, "Master, can you help me?" Su Tianxian pondered for a moment and said, "Let's go take a look first." I nodded and could only close the secret passage again, and then walked with Su Tianxian in the direction of the sound. The two of us quickly left the main hall of Sakya Temple and came to a wider place. Su Tianxian and I hid in the dark and watched the scene in front of us. The moon hung high, and the cold moonlight poured down. Dozens of monks formed a circle. There are two thick wooden stakes in the circle, and Zhou Hao and Liang Ping are tied to the wooden stakes respectively. There was a huge iron pot in front of Liang Ping, with hot butter burning in it. In front of Johao stood a monk, holding a huge iron tongs and staring coldly at Johao. The two struggled desperately, but the monks around them turned a deaf ear to it. This scene instantly reminded me of the scene I saw in the 18 levels of hell. It was obvious that these monks wanted to punish the two people through 18 levels of punishment. My impression of these monks completely changed. I always thought that they just listened to the slanderous words of the one-eyed evil monk, but now it seems that their thinking is close to being distorted. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1088. Liang Ping had an affair with someone else behind her boyfriend's back. After death, it is very likely that you will go to the oil pan hell. Most of the people who enter the oil pot hell after death are those who engage in prostitution, thieves, robbers, bullies, false accusations and slanders, eat animal flesh, and seek to seize other people's property and wives. After death, they enter the oil pot hell. Strip off your clothes and throw them into a hot oil pan, fry them, and it will make a loud popping sound. Depending on the severity of the case, he will be sentenced to multiple explosions. However, with what Liang Ping did, it was only possible to enter the hell of frying pan. Because merits and demerits balance out, if Liang Ping had done good deeds during his lifetime, he would have been exempted from these criminal laws. As for Johao, those monks naturally used tongue-pulling hell as punishment. In the tongue-pulling hell, all living people stir up dissension, slander, and harm others, are glib, argue with clever words, and lie and deceive others. After death, he was sent to the tongue-pulling hell. The kid would open the mouth of the visitor, clamp the tongue with iron pliers, and pluck it out, not all at once, but by stretching and pulling slowly. And Johao obviously fits these. Liang Ping and Johao's faces were full of fear, and their eyes were filled with despair and helplessness. Those monks were like emotionless gods of death, their cold eyes like sickles on the necks of Johao and Liang Ping. The life and death of the two people depended on the thoughts of these monks. I looked at Su Tianxian, she sighed slightly and said, "Save them." I nodded, calling Cai Dai's name in my heart. A burst of colorful light burst out from between my eyebrows. Colorful butterfly appeared in front of me. I pointed at the monks and said, "Get rid of them." Kaidi made an okay gesture, and then started to cast the spell. Her white and chubby little hands began to knead the spell, and she muttered words. After doing this, Cai Dai slowly opened her palms, and countless colorful butterflies flew out from her palms and attacked the monks. The monks were completely unaware of the butterflies' approach. In the blink of an eye, those monks were fascinated by the colorful butterflies released by the colorful butterflies. Seeing this scene, I no longer hesitated to walk out of the darkness with Su Tianxian. When Liang Ping and Johao saw Su Tianxian and me, they were like seeing saviors. They shouted loudly to the two of us, "Help us! Help us!" I frowned and scolded in a low voice, "Shut up! Do you want to recruit other monks?" As soon as these words came out, the two of them immediately shut their mouths. I untied the two of them, and after they landed, they thanked Su Tianxian and me. Su Tianxian took out a talisman from his pocket, handed it to two people, and said, "Take this talisman and walk eastward. No matter what you hear or see, don't look back. If you return to the place where we camped before, find an unoccupied tent and hide in it for the night." The two of them were frightened out of their wits. When they heard that we would not leave with them, their expressions became a little panicked. "You, what about you? Won't you come with us?" "That's right. You can take us with you wherever you go." I looked at the two of them coldly and said, "I saved you just out of humanity. If you insist on following us, if something happens to you, I will not save you a second time. If you have these two guys around, aren't they just two dragsters? I'm not stupid enough to wander around with two oil bottles." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Ching Nian Wanbo. Chapter 1089. Seeing that what I said was so serious, the two of them didn't say anything and could only choose to leave in despair. After settling the matter between the two of us, Su Tianxian, Cai Dai and I came to the main hall of the main temple again, got under the altar, and then I pressed the mechanism again. The secret passage opened, and Su Tianxian, Cai Dai and I walked into it. The surrounding environment is pitch black, and you can't see your fingers. You can only move forward by feeling. At this time, I suddenly thought of Nadian. Kadi, can't you shine? Please help me. Nai Dai's dissatisfied voice rang in my ears. As a human being, you want me to make a flashlight. I smiled awkwardly and continued to persuade her, saying, there is nothing you can do about it now, so just make do with it for now. Okay. Cai Dai said reluctantly. She transformed into a butterfly exuding colorful light. No matter when you look at Kaidian's body, she is breathtakingly beautiful. Her wings are as clear as crystal, and they are also emitting 7 colors of light. With the lighting provided by Cai Dai, it is much easier to move forward in the passage. I don't know how long we walked, but we soon came to a dark door. Colorful butterflies landed on my shoulders, and the door was carved with all kinds of evil spirits, which looked particularly ferocious. I hesitated for a moment, stretched out my hand and pushed, but the stone door didn't move at all. I tried to circulate the purple energy in my body, and the lavender mist slowly sank into the stone door from my palm. The evil spirit on the stone door suddenly began to turn blood red, as if it had come to life, giving people a very bad feeling. With a creak, the stone door opened by itself. Su Tianxian and I looked at each other and walked in. This is an underground chamber where statues of gods are enshrined. The surrounding walls have been carved out into large and small spaces, and there are Buddha statues one after another inside. Compared to the Buddha statues in the demon-suppressing pagoda, the Buddha statues here look ungrateful and much less benevolent. At this moment, I suddenly noticed a female statue from the corner of my eye. I came to the female statue, looked up and down, and felt a little surprised. The sculpture of the statue is so lifelike, as if this woman is really smiling at you. Moreover, this woman is still wearing Central Plains clothing. Is this Princess Wenqing? This thought suddenly came into my mind. I saw that the stone statue book was holding a snow-white conch shell with an adult slapping his hands and laughing. The shell exudes the brilliance of holiness. Just looking at it can bring some comfort to people's hearts. The shell contains the supreme sound of Buddha. White conch shell. I was happy, but I didn't rush to get it. The white conch shell is the most precious treasure of Buddhism and is not so easy to obtain. Su Tianxian stared at the statue and murmured in a low voice, Princess Wenqing. How come there is a statue of Princess Wenqing? Su Tianxian's words proved that my guess was correct. I just wanted to ask Su Tianxian how to obtain the white conch shell. At this moment, Su Tianxian's beautiful eyes trembled slightly, and then she frowned. Suddenly I had a bad feeling in my heart. Su Tianxian pointed at the statue and said, Xiao Su, look back and see if there are any changes in the statue. Hearing this sentence, I slowly turned my head. I looked at the statue carefully, looking back and forth, and a chill spread to my heart. The statue's eyes, actually opened. Sky Coffin. Author, Ching Nian Wanbo. Chapter 1090. The statue of Princess Wenqing is made of clay. She puts her hands inside her sleeves and sits cross-legged. She wears a blue embroidered shawl on the outside and a brown embroidered skirt on the inside. She wears a green silk scarf and a crown, and her ears are decorated with gold ornaments. Her expression is delicate and graceful. Her beautiful eyes stared at me closely, and in the eyes of the clay statue, I actually saw a human expression. I bowed 3 times to the statue of Princess Wenching and said, "No offense, I came here today to get the white conch shell. I hope the princess can give me the white conch shell." After saying this, I stared at the statue closely. There was deathly silence around me, and I don't know how long it took. Just when I thought Princess Wenching agreed to my request, the statue suddenly burst out with a dazzling golden light. This golden light stung me so much that I couldn't open my eyes. When the golden light dissipated, a beautiful woman appeared in front of me. It's Princess Wenching's soul. No, it should be the remnant soul of Princess Wenching. Princess Wenching saluted me, and then said respectfully, "Master, you are here." National Master. My brain is racing. Princess Wenching is the daughter of Emperor Taizong Li Shimin of the Tang dynasty. At that time, there was only one famous warlock, and that was Yuan Tiangang. The name is like the bright moon covering the ages, and the sound is like the spring thunder that shakes the past and present. This sentence is what later generations used to describe Yuan Tiangang. Yuan Tiangang's talents, physiognomy, and divination methods are all extremely outstanding. At that time, he dared to say that he was first, but no one dared to say that he was second. Yuan Tiangang is also my reincarnation? This surprised me a bit. Princess Wenching held the white conch shell and handed it to me respectfully. "Master, I give you this white conch shell." I took the white conch shell from Princess Wenching's hand and asked, "Why are you here?" Princess Wenching behaved generously and was as gentle as water. She replied, "I was entrusted by the Imperial Master to guard this white conch shell. A ray of my soul has been integrated with the white conch shell." I nodded, thought again, and asked, "What is the purpose of doing this?" Princess Wenching seems to have known that Yuan Tiangang is my reincarnation. She replied, "When I came here, you told me that as long as I do what you said, I can protect the prosperity of the Tang dynasty forever. You not only told me how to suppress the witch, but also said that this white conch shell will have a great effect thousands of years later." Princess Wenching hesitated for a moment and then said, "Moreover, you also said that you would let me leave a trace of my soul and wait for another 1,000 years to help you complete your plan." Big plan. Princess Wenching nodded, "Yes, a big plan to change the order of the world." After listening to Princess Wenching's words, I fell into silence. Yunxiazi, Yuan Tiangang, Emperor Wu of Han, are all my reincarnations. I have never understood the purpose of my reincarnation, but now through Princess Wenching's words, I seem to understand. Every time I reincarnate, I am planning to complete the plan to change the order of the world. I looked at Princess Wenching and asked again, "Do you know what the sky coffin is?" When Princess Wenching heard the word heavenly coffin, her expression became a little weird, and then she replied, "I know, the thing created by Emperor Zaiwei can suppress the 9 evil stars and the evil spirits in the world. Among them, the 7 evil stars were suppressed by you." It seems that my guess was correct. In every reincarnation, in addition to planning, he is also thinking of ways to suppress the 9 evil stars. Could it be that the purpose of suppressing the 9 evil stars is also a grand plan?